Hello friends, welcome to Spring Framework. In this video, I'll talk about Spring Framework application development. So here we'll be discussing about what is Spring Framework, how to develop application in Spring Framework using Java based software. So basically Spring Framework is used for creating model, view, controller, design based application. So let's start with the software requirements. First, you need a Java software and you need to install Spring Framework with the editor software. So here we have a choice. We can use a Spring Tools Suite STS provided by Eclipse IDE. Also, we can use IntelliJ on we can use NetBeans IDE or we can use Microsoft VS Code. So I'm going to demonstrate the application development using Spring Tool Suite software. So first we need to install this Spring Tool Suite. You have to search Spring in Google. So you'll be getting a website spring.io site you can navigate. So here you can download the software for Eclipse IDE. With Eclipse IDE you'll be getting. So this is the you can download for Linux or Mac OS or Windows operating system. So you'll be getting a zip file and you can download and you can extract, and there is an icon called Spring Tool Suite icon you'll be getting. So that icon you can open. So let's see that software, and when you open the software it look like this. So this is a Spring Tool Suite. Here we can develop Spring Framework based application. So basically we can develop a large scale enterprise application which is also based on MVC design pattern. So MVC stands for model view controller design pattern. So we can easily maintain the application. So that is a everything is separated, and using this MVC framework we can able to manage the application very easily, and we can develop the application very faster way. Right. So after opening the software, you have to open file, select new, select Spring Starter project, and ensure that you are having an internet connection. So what's the need for internet connection for creating a project is, so when you create a Spring Framework based application, it will create a project structure, and it will include the library files. So to include the library files, it will download the data from the library files from internet. So here first thing is you have to give the project name. For example, here we can give a example one as a project name, and this is important. The type of the project structure is Maven repository I'm going to use. We have an option called Gradle we can use using Kotlin or other programming language. So here I'm going to use Maven repository package I'm going to use for installing the library files. So this Maven repository helps to include the library files required for the project. So then you can click next. So in this window you have to configure your dependencies. So what is mean by dependencies? The required libraries for developing your Spring MVC application. So first for a simple application, in this exercise we are going to utilize very basic dependency we are going to include. So first thing is, inside this developer tools you can select this Spring Boot Dev tools you have to select. So this is the first thing you have to select. Then you can just scroll down and you can see there is a template engine is there. Inside template engine you can select time leaf. This time leaf is used for binding the data in a view component, and the finally we have to select web, Spring Web MVC framework we need, right? So these are the three libraries needed for creating a simple web application using a Spring framework. And if you want to store any data, and if you want to work with the database, we need additional libraries like MySQL driver, or we need Spring Data JDBC, or we need Spring Data JPA. So when you need to connect database, you need to install those library also. So after configuring these three things, we can click finish. So now it start creating the project. You can see the project creation in the status bar in the down. You can click here, and when you click here, you can see the progress of project creation. So we have to wait for few seconds. So now the progress window shows that no operations to display at this time. So it means that it has downloaded the required library files, and it creates the project. The project is created. So here you can, the package explorer, you can see the project. The project is title is example 1, right? So when you open this project, you can see the project structure. So here we need to understand the project structure. So first is actually the main Java folder. So here we have to create the controller classes. So basically MVC stands for model view controller. So where controller is a logic to access the data and bind that view component. Model is the data, view is the presentation layer, that is a HTML program we have to use. So here we have to create controller, and we can store the view component, the view files. For example, HTML program we can create inside templates folder. So the resource folder is used for storing HTML programs, CSS files, JavaScript files. The client side scripting files we can store in static folder and templates folder. So for view binding, we have to always work with the templates folder. So inside templates folder, we can create a views like using HTML program. Okay, and there is a one file called form.xml. So if I open the form.xml, you can see. So here you can see the libraries, whatever libraries we have so far we have installed for this application. That is called dependency. So for example, first dependency is Thymeleaf for views, and second one is we have installed Spring Boot Starter Web for developing the web MVC framework, and we have installed Spring Boot development tools for executing the application and deploying the application in server. So there is a, it comes with a local server. So the development tools provides local server. The local server is available here. You can see that in the left side. So this is a local server terminal. So when you run the project, the project is deployed in this server, and we can double click and we can see the output. So this is a project structure. So now let's see how to create model view controller components in this project. So first we need to go to this src main.java, sorry, src main java cat folder. So here we can store the controller classes. For example, first we can create a controller. So right click, new, select a new Java class. So basically controller is a Java class, and we have to write some functionalities. So first of all, you should understand what is controller. So when a user make a request in a browser, so first it will hit the controller component. Okay, the request goes to the controller. In controller, we have to specify set of request processing methods for every URL request, and that function method will be automatically called, and we can write some functionalities. So functionality can be we can show some views, we can do some, we can store the data in a database, we can update the views. So now let's see how to create controller class. So right click this demo package, select new. So here you can select class. So here we can name it as home controller. Then click finish. So now you will be getting a Java class, normal Java class, and you have to convert the normal Java class as a controller class. So for that, in Spring Framework, it provides set of annotations. So using annotation, we have to we can configure the Java class as a controller class. So the annotation here we have to use is at the rate, just above the class, you have to use at the rate controller. No need to type fully, just you type few letters and press control space, and when you press control space you will be getting a the corresponding annotation from Spring Framework package. So you have to select this, double click, so automatically this import statement will be done. So no need to type this. Now this class becomes a controller. So when I run the program, if you go to localhost 8080 and if you type any request, the request will come to this controller part, this controller particular controller class. Now we have to write some request processing methods, right? So request processing methods we have to write. So for example, when I open localhost 8080, the first URL, what you want to show, that we can write in a function as a function logic. So how to write? We have to start with the public, and the return type is very important. Here the return type should be a string. Since I'm going to return a view component, I want to return a view file. So basically view is a HTML program we are going to return. So we can write one function called index, right? So this function should return a view called view, which is a HTML program. Now this particular function should be called when I go to localhost 8080. So when I go to the localhost 8080, it will make a request to URL pattern. The URL pattern is slash. So we can write a request processing by using get mapping. So this is another annotation. We have to use get mapping. Same way you type few letters and press control space, it will be automatically included. Select that particular from Spring Framework. Now get mapping within bracket, we have to specify the URL pattern. So you basically when you run localhost 8080, the URL pattern is slash, that is a root URL. So when I navigate to the root URL, what you want to display? So here I have to return. So I have to return one HTML program. So for example, I will create one home.html program. So we can return the HTML program. So this just you have to give the name of the HTML program. No, it's not mandatory that you have to specify .html. Just give the name of the HTML program you want to show when the request come to this function. So how it is working is when we navigate localhost 8080, the request go to this index function. This index function return a view. Now the question is where we have to create this view component. So the view component you have to create inside templates folder. So there is a templates folder here. So you can right click templates, right click and select new, and you have to select file. A new HTML program we are going to create. So select file. The name of the file is home.html, and just give the home.html and click finish. So this is a home.html file created inside templates folder. So this file is this is called view class, view component. As we are discussing about MVC, right? So we have studied controller, and this is a view component. So view component is used to display data to the user, right? So it's a basically a HTML program. You have to write HTML code. So we can start with the HTML5 template. So doc type HTML, and we can start with HTML tag. So inside, as you know that you can use head tag and title. So welcome to Spring Framework. So otherwise we can just put Spring Framework as a title of the site. The next we can create a body tag. So inside body tag we can display whatever you want to respond. For example, I want to respond one message, welcome to MVC application. So this will be the response when we go to the localhost 8080. That will be identified by this index function. Okay, so this is what controller logic. So now let's see the output, how to run. Let's see how to execute this program. So you have to go to the project, right click. There is option run as. Select run as and select Spring Boot app. You have to select Spring Boot app. So now the application is start executing, and you can see the execution status in the log as a log information. You can see in the status console window, you can see the status of your project. Now it is ready, almost the project is ready, and here you can see the information. And locally we will be getting a Tomcat server as a local server. Here the port number is 8080. So the context path, so here we have to connect localhost colon 8080, that is a path. So how to execute this program? Once we run the application come to this local server. Here you can see the local server, and you can see the green color arrow mark. So this is actually this specifies this particular application is live, so deployed, and it is live, ready to execute. So to how to execute, just double click this particular live project. So now when you double click, it will open a browser and it will navigate to localhost 8080. Okay, and you can see MVC application. So this is one way of executing this program. Another way of executing program is you can directly open the browser. You can type localhost 8080. When you type localhost 8080, you will be getting the response from the view component of this particular template. Okay, so here we have a templates. So from this templates, the view file will be loaded. So how it is working? When we type localhost 8080, the URL pattern is slash. URL pattern is slash. So this get mapping annotation identify the URL pattern. It will match the URL pattern. So the URL pattern is matched. So this function will be called automatically. This function is returning a name of the view component, which is a home.html. So that will be displayed. So this is a way we have to create controller and view component in Spring application. Suppose if you want to pass some data from controller to, sometimes you want to pass data from controller to view component. Now let us see how to bind some data to the from controller to view component. So in order to bind data, we can use, there is a class called model class. So we need to use a model class. So model class is basically used for representing data. So model class is used to hold the data. It's a whole container for storing the data. So this model class we have to include in our request processing method. So let us see how to do that. So here we have a get mapping. Now I want to pass some data, right? So in this index function, we have to create one variable called model. So this variable, you may get error. You have to click here, click this particular error button and select import model from Spring Framework UI. You have to select Spring Framework UI. So now it is imported. Now this model object is acting like a intermediator to carry the data from controller to view component. So how to pass the data? So take the model object, use add attribute function. So inside add attribute function, we can create one variable. For example, I want to send name of the person. So we can use name as a variable, and we can give a value. For example, John. John is another data. So like this, we can pass as many data you want. I want to send one more data. So we can use add attribute, and I want to send email ID of this particular person. So we can use john at gmail.com. So now these two data will be available inside the view component of home.html. So now let's see how we can access the data in home.html. So for that we have to use TimeLeaf library file we have included. So we have to use a TimeLeaf attributes. So how to use TimeLeaf attribute is, you have to start with the th attribute. So if I want to display the data inside a paragraph like this, okay, so inside a paragraph, if I want to display this particular name, for example, I want to display the John, I want to display. So let's see how to bind the data. So you have to use th colon text attribute you have to use equal to bind the data we have to use dollar then bracket inside the name of the data. So name we can the data variable name is name, so we can access John. The same way we can access the email address also. So go to the paragraph tag, not only paragraph, you can use any HTML tag. So th colon text, inside you have to use dollar, we have to bind email ID. So now everything is done, so you have to just save it. So when you save it, if you see the status bar, the application is now again it will be executed and it will be deployed in the server. So no need to run go to the server every time. So just you go to the browser and reload the page. So when you reload the page, here you can see John and john@gmail.com. The data is binded in the HTML this response. In a browser response, we can see the data of that we can see the value of the data, right? So this is about how to bind the data. Sometimes if you want to bind arrays, okay, if you want to bind array data, you can the same way you can create an array. For example, I want to create an array. So I want to store some names in an array. So we can create a string array. So now I want to store many names. For example, Vmax, and I want to store Arun. I want to store Vimal. I want to store another one more name, Peter. Okay. So these are the 4 items available in this array. So I want to pass this array in the model. So we have to use model add attribute, create one variable for this particular array. So we can put it as items. Okay. Now we can pass this array. For example, names, right? So this array we can pass in add attribute. So this will be passed on to that. Now since we have added in the model object, it will be available in the view component. So just save it and come to the home.html program, and in home.html program, let's see how to display the values from the array. So here in array we have multiple items, so we have to type one by one and we have to display it. So in order to do that, we'll use some list kind of view. So ordered list we can use. So inside ordered list we can create one block using th block, and inside this th block, the th we can use iterate. In time leaf there is a iteration attribute is that th colon each equal to. So inside how to iterate, for example, name, actually I want to iterate names from the array, right? So array you have to create one variable name colon, then you have to use dollar bracket, inside bracket give the array variable name. Item is the array variable name. That is that this item is a not array variable name. The item is a variable of the attribute, right? In the model object, the array is stored in this items variable. Okay. So here you have to give the items variable and close this, and you have to close this th block. So inside this th block will be iterated, and every time when we iterate we can generate the list item and we can show the list item. So how to show that? Th colon again text equal to dollar bracket name. So how this is working? From this array, this is array, item is array. From this array, every item will be taken one by one, and it will be stored in this variable, and it will generate this list item where the data is binded. This particular name is displayed. So now again save this program and open browser. You can reload the page. Here you can see the set of names we have stored in array is actually binded in the view component, like Vmax, Arun, Vimal, Peter. So this is about how to bind data from controller to view component using model class. So we can use model class. So there is one more way also we can use. called another one more way also we can send data is by using model and view component. So this is another way of alternate way of holding data as well as view component. So let's see how we can store data and how we can set view component. So for example, this URL pattern is slash, right? So now for example, sometimes I want to connect. Sometimes I want to connect slash home. For example, sometimes I want to type like this slash home. So when I type slash home, nothing is responded, right? So if you want to process this request, I have to write slash home request processing method. For the slash home, I have to write one more method, public return type is string. uh, Let it be home page function. The function may be name can be anything. Now I want to map this function using get mapping, and inside we have to give this URL pattern slash home. Okay, so now assume that I want to return one view component here. So return products, or we can display products page. So we can create a products.html program later. Now let's see how we can use this model and view component. Okay, so model and view component is we can store model as well as we can store view name also. Okay, so usually we have to write in this way, right? So this way we have to modify. So slightly we have to modify. So how to do that is we have to create a class called model and view. So we have to create a model and view object we have to create. So in this model and view object we can store the data as well as we can set the view name. And finally we have to return the object in a form of model and view. So here you can see how we are including model and view and how we are returning it. Now let's see how to add data. So mv dot, there is a function called add object. So inside add object we can create a variable name. For example, I want to send some data like person name I want to send. So here we'll create a variable person name, and the person name is assume that Vimal David. So here this data is added in the model view. Also we can set view name also using set view name. There's a function called set view name. So inside this set view name we can give the name of the view file. For example, I'm going to create a HTML program, products.html program. So we can give the view name as products. Then finally we have to return mv as an object. Okay, so now let's see how to create the view HTML program. So we have to go to templates folder, right click, new, select file, products.html. So this is a view I want to return, right? So I want to display. So we can click finish, and here we can write the HTML code. So I'll copy this HTML code, and here we can put, and we'll delete this program, delete this particular content, and this page. So in this product page, we can see that this is welcome to products page. So here we can display the data. So for example, I want to display the data so like this way. So you can create a paragraph tag th colon text. So now I want to bind the data. So what is the data here? So data is actually person name is the data. So using this name we can take the name of the person Vimal David. So here the small mistake. So you have to access person name in this products page. So dollar bracket, the identifier is person name. So we can bind the data. So now I have saved the program, everything. So when I save the program, the Spring development tools automatically build the application and automatically deploy the application in the local server. And we have to go to the browser, and we have to navigate to the URL. We have to go to slash home, right? So we have to type application, the local host 8080 slash home. So when I type slash home, it will hit the controller. It will hit the controller, and this home page function will be called. Home page function will be called, and here we are creating a model and view as an object. And in model and view object, we have discussed how to add data using add object function, how to set the view name using set view name function, and finally we can return this model and view object. So here using this add object and set view function, we are the Spring framework will understand that data as well as view name. So it will be directly, it will be the dispatching the view component in the page when we navigate to slash home. So that's all about how to pass data from controller to view component using time leaf. We are binding the data. So in this video we have discussed how to create a Spring framework application by using Spring tool suite, and we have discussed about how to create controller and how to bind data in, how to create view component and how to bind the data in view component. So thank you all.